Okay, folks, we're going to start. So thanks everybody for coming. And before we really start, I just want to take a moment to recognize that we're meeting on and that this exhibition is happening on the traditional and unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples, including the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. I also, before we start the talks, want to take a moment to recognize the huge team of support that has helped make this exhibition happen, including Sandy Zilker and Gwen Rookenbrod-Smith and the exhibition committee at the Society of North American Goldsmiths, in particular their Emerging Curators Grant Program, also the entire board of the Vancouver Metal Arts Association, and particularly the indefatigable Julie Campbell, who's right here, and also Louise Perron, who are both on the exhibition committee, and Julie is the chair. And I also want to thank everyone at the CCBC who's really helped make this show happen for us as well, especially Rain in the back, and Emma who's not here, and Charlotte. So on to the main event. The exhibition, Unexpected, explores the strange and sometimes discordant elements that make the viewing, wearing, and making of contemporary art jewelry an enjoyable endeavor. The unexpected and contemporary art jewelry are by no means strange bedfellows. Viewers and wearers of this work often seek out our discipline because it is unusual and extraordinary. The unusual and unusual elements and materials have become de rigueur in a creative world that continues to embrace what's being called post-disciplinary craft practices which move beyond medium-centered forms of making. For this exhibition, I asked the exhibiting artists to consider the following questions. What does the unexpected add to your practice? What does the freedom to work outside the domain of what's typically considered jewelry give to your work? And how do you navigate bringing outsider skills, techniques, concepts, and materials into your jewelry practice? The show was jointly curated and juried, and the final results of Unexpected were completely unexpected to myself as well. As curator, I chose 4 artists whom I thought exemplified the theme of the exhibition in a variety of ways. Carrie Wu, whose work Sticks and Stones kind of flips the script on adornment and looks at using precious materials to adorn the kind of everyday objects that we often pass by. Matt Lambert, whose work bridges mediums and brings in his background in psychology and as a leathersmith into his work. Bridget Catchpole, whose practice deals with cycles of waste and renewal. And Gina Xiao, whose work uses a very kind of quirky reciprocity in deploying techniques upon materials. So she'll often take a technique that we think about using in metal and deploy it on fabric and then put those things together in a really interesting way. Using the work as a conceptual spine, our jury, which consisted of Susan Remnant, Rebecca Hannon, and Lyndsey Rice, right here, went through the results of our open call, which was phenomenal. 107 individual works by 43 artists from all across North America. And they looked through the work for connections and then suggested work for the final show, which was a challenging task, I think. There's a lot to look at, to say the least, yeah. So with their input in mind, I then went forward and selected the 17 artists who made up the balance of the show. So Lydia Buxton, who's right here, Melissa Cameron, who's right here, and Barbara Cohen, who's right here. I just took like the top of the alphabet for the top. And then also Jennifer Krupe, Yoshi Hattori, who's here in the audience, Kiri Hinkleman, Holland Hudak, Karen Jones, who's here, Joshua Kosker, Andy Lowry, Jacqueline Lung, Brooks Mark Swanson, Sharon Massey, Louise Perron, who's here, Lissy Selvius, Eric Verastro, and Lawrence Whitford. So this format, I think, allowed for the unexpected to really weave itself through the exhibition in ways that I couldn't predict, and really brought a lot of different connections and conversations that I maybe would not have seen if I had just been looking through the work on my own. So tonight we're going to hear from juror Lyndsey Rice and Lydia, Melissa, and Barbara about their practices. And I'll just say a couple words about the format. So each of these artists are going to have 15 minutes to speak, which is not all that long. And they'll get a little buzzer at 13 minutes to remind them that they need to start winding up in case they're going over. And then we'll have time at the end for any kind of questions and discussion. We can just use the rest of the time for that. So please hold any questions that you have until the end of the talks. And first we're going to start with Lyndsey. So now I have to put on my professional bio reading voice. I have a cold, so it's hard to do. You guys all sound so impressive on paper. I mean, you're impressive in real life, but on paper it's like extra impressive. So Lyndsey Rice received an MFA from the University of Oregon in 2012 and holds a BFA from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, which she received in 2006. Her new body of work, False Plumage, was recently featured in Art Jewellery Forum, and her artwork was exhibited in the Racine Art Museum this past spring in an exhibition of contemporary Baroque style art. She's also been very busy this year. She also had a curatorial project presented at Zoom Milwaukee called Embodied, a project for which she was awarded an Emerging Curator Grant from the Society of North American Goldsmiths. And she's exhibited work across the United States, including recent shows at Aramont School of Art and Craft in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, at Liège in Lille, France, the Museum of Contemporary Craft in Portland, Oregon, which sadly doesn't exist anymore. On top of all of this, Rice is also currently an assistant professor in the Jewelry and Metals Department at Alberta College of Art and Design. So I will move out of the way and then we can talk.
My favorite thing about being in Canada so far is how people can go from like this perfect kind of Canadian accent and then all of a sudden French. And then back again, and I'm always like, oh, and adapting to Zed too. Okay, so hi, I'm Lyndsey. I just want to start out by saying that you guys have definitely fulfilled my Canadian stereotypes so far in this 48-hour period of being here. Everyone has been unbelievably nice to me, which is definitely an American stereotype of Canadians. Also, people have been apologizing to me when they walk into me, and yeah, so it's been really great, and I really appreciate you guys being so warm and welcoming, having me here. This is my first kind of Canadian art jewelry experience, so thank you for making it a wonderful one so far. We'll see how the rest of the evening goes. Okay, so I just wanted to thank you guys, and then I just wanted to start with this image, and also just say that I'm not going to be speaking about anybody's work who's here, because I feel like that would be really redundant, so I just picked a couple people that I thought really kind of exemplified Lexie's curatorial statement. And one thing when I was reading through that statement that really stood out to me was the sentence that, am I ruining the microphone by moving back and forth? Okay. Was the statement that she made, the unusual elements and materials have become de rigueur in a creative world that continues to embrace post-disciplinary craft practices which move beyond centered approaches to making. And I really feel that statement in some ways kind of sums up what's happening in contemporary art jewelry, and it really stood out to me, so I just kind of wanted to use that to set the tone for my talk. I want to start out with what is expected from jewelry. So the idea that you're going to have this stone setting, right? You're going to have something that's gold, and you're also going to be setting, I mean, these are probably cubic zirconias, right? But setting a precious stone or something that mimics a precious stone. So this is what you would think of as is maybe something that's expected of jewelry. Looking at the way the art world has kind of interpreted the gemstone. So this is a piece by Jeff Koons. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with this. But thinking about how jewelry and the setting are a way to highlight and kind of amplify the gemstone, amplify something precious. So this is the way that we could say the art world is kind of looking at this tradition within which we work, and kind of playing with it. And then I would argue these are some examples of kind of the grandfathers of contemporary art jewelry, if you will. So we have Heisbacher and Otto Künzli. So these are examples that I would say of work that kind of flipped the script, right, or like changed what was jewelry work into something that was contemporary, so something that was critical, something that was working from concept. And so once we go through these other images, I really think that this work is what influences the next generations of makers. So the piece on the right is a gold-leafed frame, and so in a way thinking about how a necklace frames the face or highlights the face in a similar way to the way a picture frame can. And then the piece on the right is a cutout from a newspaper article that was then laminated. So it's this wearable object that is the image of something that was like very expensive. So speaking about different work in the exhibition and how it kind of relates to those previous ones we just showed. I'm thinking about this as a way to, like a lot of the work explores materiality, and it plays on unexpected materials. So we're not just looking like at that first piece I was showing where there are gold and diamonds. We're really looking at materials that, and for example in this one, that are materials of kind of detritus, or the throwaway, and then making new again. So instead of having these be something that you would throw out, right, or dispose of, through the accumulation of these objects, putting them back together, it becomes this new form, and this new wearable form. The things that keep it in the jewelry realm are definitely the format of the piece, so relating to the necklace again, and the pendant, utilizing something that mimics an S-hook. So there's a lot of jewelry vocabulary happening here that, that lets you know that the object is wearable, just as an image. In this piece by Lizzie Stevens, I can't talk, sorry. I think materiality is really important in this piece as well. Because the work operates in this in-between space where it's aluminum, where she is making an object and then melting the object, and instead of totally melting the piece, she allows it to exist in this in-between space where it's made and it's unmade, where it's whole and it's becoming kind of evaporated. So it speaks to ideas of memory, ideas of loss, ideas of preciousness that are all kind of embedded within jewelry simultaneously. And this all happens through the act of melting and through the material choices she's making. Lexie brought this up a little bit before, but thinking about the idea of the gem and the setting and alternative ways to work with that. So, and just kind of harking on this again, using traditional kind of formats, so the brooch and traditional things which go in it, such as a stone. She's kind of making her own gemstones, making her own settings, and then really playing with the two kind of materials here. So if she stitches one, she stitches the other. If she heats one, she heats the other. So really kind of trying to push what the materials are capable of doing in both pieces. And then therefore kind of coming up with her own visual image in the end, something that's unlike other pieces because she's treating both materials in a way that they kind of shouldn't be or aren't expected to be. One thing I think is really interesting about Louise's work in context with the show is the idea that it is two objects in one. So it's a one piece, right, when it's contained, and another piece when it's opened. And then also through the use of material, she's kind of harking on both kind of male and female, like materials that you consider to be something that would be like in a sport coat, and then something that would be in like a lingerie, right? So when the object is contained, or a cube, it's one thing, and then when it is opened or exposed, it becomes this kind of feminine, like a feminine exploration. Also thinking about where you're placing these on the body, over the belly, in this kind of defensive place. So there's a lot embedded in just the, again, material and the format in these pieces. Again, so keeping this kind of theme of format and material alive, and looking at Matt's pieces where he's utilizing kind of this fencing mask, so something that's traditionally thought of as a way to kind of play or explore fighting in a way, right? So it's like this play sword fighting, but then he's applying this neurological image of a deer when they're actually like in heat or when they're fighting each other. So utilizing visual imagery and then also like kind of materials that we understand, he gets to kind of have this beautiful ornate object that engages the viewer in the necklace or the mask, but then also kind of speaks to other things, like speaks to some question, you questioning kind of maleness or sexuality or kind of fighting for the prize of a mate, or all these things that are kind of embedded in these objects. I would also argue that not only the format that he uses, so the scale of his objects really are engaging, but also the way he chooses to take images of his objects really make you question if this person wasn't, if they had boxers on, this would be a completely different conversation. So yeah, I really kind of applaud his use of photography in his pieces. So Ark is another person who's thinking about kind of issues of masculinity, and then using things that you wouldn't expect, again, in a jewelry piece. So he's looking at military badges and utilizing that format. So it's kind of, an object with a ribbon and these kind of hanging tassels. But he's using this kind of marine applique on top of it. So this marine surface, this kind of buoy, or bobbers that are hanging from the piece, or potentially this kind of portion of a surfboard, to talk about the space between people. So you're wearing this kind of military badge, or this brooch, which that kind of format on the body, I would argue, speaks to more of a billboard than a necklace or an earring would. So it's more of a statement. And so utilizing the military, again, he's kind of speaking to like badges and like presidential pins. And then again, when adding that surface to it, he's kind of allowing to talk about the space between people. So utilizing, again, the format and this imagery to try to begin to have a conversation about something other, about something social. Thinking about the body again, so obviously everyone saw these pieces the other night. They're very lovely in person and have so much more tactility to them when they're not in the image. But these settings all have Swarovski crystals in them, so there's this kind of lightness to them, which is a really lovely juxtaposition with the material that's contained within these settings she's making. So again, breast implants and penile implants. So what does it mean to set these things that are as expensive, if not more so, than a sapphire or a diamond, right? Like these things that have like a material and a cultural value in a similar way. So setting them like this in this ornate way, like exposing them to the outside of the body, allowing them to become a gemstone, and then speaking to the body in this kind of different or unexpected way. I keep using the word unexpected. It's working. Yeah, I know. I feel like I keep, like it's in there now, so I can't not do it. But anyway, they create this kind of other, it's another way to think about what is seen and unseen and the potential of jewelry, especially because these would hang in a specific spot on the body, so you're like highlighting something that wouldn't be seen. And then this work, so again, thinking about the gemstone, I kind of put these two together because I think that they're kind of alternative gems, or like alternative settings. But the thing that I think is the most lovely or kind of poetic about these pieces is that he's using the body to make the gems for the pieces that are then worn on the body again. So the idea of like washing and like cleaning your body, and everyone kind of interacts with soap differently, right? Like we would all have a different kind of shape at the end, and I think we would all also probably decide it was garbage at a different point, right? So like making this thing that we would normally, that our body kind of erodes away, and then like setting it in this way to highlight what the body has done to this object that would kind of be garbage. But utilizing, again, like very traditional metalsmithing skills. So like knowing how to make things allows him to make objects in this way. So the settings are like perfect in the back, right? They're all really like well thought out. So I guess a couple of general themes, right, of the exhibition is that we're utilizing jewelry formats. I'm checking. We're utilizing jewelry formats here, using unexpected materials, to kind of speak about what jewelry can be, the potential of what an object has in it, and utilizing those formats again of the necklace or the earring or the brooch to speak about humanness. And yeah, so that's my talk. And I have 54 seconds left.